Episode 3: The Secret of Backcrossing and the 7-Generation Rule. You survived the dangerous illusion of the first generation. You had the technical courage to face the genetic minefield of the F2. After ruthless, painful culling on your farm, you are left with just 10 or 15 birds that perfectly represent the production standard you set out to achieve. They have the right dressed weight, the functional comb you need for your climate, and the perfect bone structure. But now, looking at those few survivors, you are asking yourself the million-dollar question: what's next? Today, I am going to teach you the exact biological formula to lock those genes in forever and turn a backyard experiment into a true, stable breed. Let's get to work. Reaching this critical point with a rigorously selected F2 flock is a technical achievement very few folks pull off. Most people quit when the F2 generation explodes into a chaotic mess of mixed traits. But since you stayed the course, this is exactly where the real game of genetic chess begins. You are holding highly valuable biological material in your hands, but on the inside, the DNA is still completely unstable. If you just let those 10 or 15 exceptional survivors cross randomly in an open pasture or a mixed pen, you are going to lose control of the inbreeding incredibly fast. The quality of your flock will nosedive, and years of hard work will be ruined in a single season. To avoid this imminent collapse, we must use the most powerful, surgical, and yet most misunderstood tool in professional poultry breeding: backcrossing. I want to bust a major myth right now because I've seen so much unfounded fear about this out in the field. There is a massive mathematical difference between uncontrolled barnyard incest, which destroys your flock's immunity, hatch rates, and overall size, and true, technical backcrossing designed to lock in virtues. Incest is just randomly crossing brothers to sisters out of pure laziness because a keeper didn't want to take the time to build separate breeding pens. Technical backcrossing, on the other hand, is a deliberate, calculated, and temporary strategy to achieve much desired homozygosity at a highly accelerated rate. It consists of taking the very best daughters of the F2 generation, the ones that survived all your physical and production culling filters, and crossing them directly and exclusively back to the original founder sire. But pay close attention here, because this is where folks mess up. This is only done if that founder sire proved to be an absolutely exceptional breeder, packing dominant traits that you want to permanently stamp into your bloodline. Think of it like a genetic funnel. You are pouring all that wild F2 variability into a narrow spout, filtering out the junk and keeping only the premium traits. When you execute this backcross to the founder sire, you are mathematically forcing the genetics to concentrate the desired alleles into a single point. You are drastically diluting the chaotic variability that caused so many headaches in the F2, and you are forcing the DNA to speak a single, stable language. In this specific cross, the resulting chicks will carry 75% of the pure blood of that exceptional sire. You are locking in bone size, breast shape, and foraging hardiness much faster than you ever could by doing open crosses. However, this surgical tool comes with an unbreakable golden rule that a master breeder must never, ever violate. Backcrossing demands that the founder animal you are using be utterly flawless in terms of health and immunity. If that founder rooster has the most gorgeous plumage in the world but once suffered from chronic respiratory issues, or if he showed proven low fertility during the breeding season, backcrossing him will multiply and permanently lock those lethal flaws into all your future offspring. Health is always your first filter, no exceptions. If a bird requires medication just to stay alive, it has no business in your breeding program. Once you execute this carefully planned backcross, or if you decide to cross your absolute best F2 specimens together using closed family line breeding, you officially enter the vital F3 generation. This is where all the textbook theory turns into grueling, physical farm work. You have to set up your breeding pens with absolute military precision. The days of having all your hens mixed together with several roosters competing for dominance are officially over. You need individual, separated breeding pens where one single, highly selected rooster lives with a specific, carefully chosen group of hens. You need a strict tracking system. Whether you use colored leg bands, toe punches, or wing bands, you must know exactly who is mating with who. If you don't know exactly which hen laid which egg, you are flying blind. In this F3 stage, we introduce the most rigorous and defining technical concept for evaluating breeders, the Progeny Test. Up until now, you have been selecting your birds based entirely on how they look physically and how they perform individually at the feeder, that is, by their visible phenotype. But the Progeny Test evaluates the deep, invisible genotype of the bird. It tells you the absolute, unvarnished truth about what that breeder is hiding in its blood. A visually perfect rooster is only valuable if his offspring hatch looking exactly like him. Imagine you have a breeder rooster that is a living work of art. He meets your standard down to the millimeter. You put him in the selective breeding pen and hatch 100 of his chicks in your incubator. If those F3 chicks hatch with obvious weaknesses, if they show recurring leg defects, If the first week mortality rate is high in the brooder, or if their feather colors are a visual train wreck, the progeny test is screaming the painful truth right in your face. That rooster, no matter how beautiful and vigorous he looks to the naked eye, is carrying genetic baggage. He must be culled without an ounce of pity. Get into a ruthless culling mindset. Don't fall in love with your birds. Fall in love with the data. If the data says the rooster is throwing bad chicks, he goes to the stew pot, period. The progeny test is the supreme and final judge in your continuous improvement program. If you don't evaluate and grade your breeders by the consistent quality of their offspring, you are navigating a genetic ocean without a compass. A true elite breeder is one capable of stamping his positive traits onto his chicks with total, unwavering uniformity. If you find a rooster that dominant in your F3, write his band number down in big red letters in your record book, because you have just found the biological engine of your future breed. As the months roll by, and you continue selecting only the best offspring from the best progeny-tested parents, you will successfully reach the F4 generation. Here, you will start to notice a radical and deeply satisfying change on your farm. The visual chaos that terrified you in the beginning has almost entirely disappeared. When you walk into your F4 pen with your notebook in hand, you see a flock of birds that are really starting to look like exact copies of each other. The overall uniformity in body size, the even growth rate during the rearing phase, and the base plumage color will give you an immense sense of technical triumph. But elite poultry breeding is an endurance marathon, not a sprint. In the F4, the imminent danger is no longer physical chaos, it is the breeder's own complacency. Because the birds look so good, so uniform, and so productive, many poultrymen make the massive, fatal mistake of relaxing their strict culling criteria. They stop weighing the chicks on the scale every week. They stop tracking exactly which hen came in to lay first with a good-sized egg. They start keeping merely average animals just because they look aesthetically correct to the eye. Dropping your technical guard at this intermediate stage is the equivalent of sliding backward 2 whole years of hard work. You end up wasting expensive bags of feed on birds that do absolutely nothing to improve the bloodline. In the F4 generation, your selection process must become absolutely microscopic and obsessive. You are no longer culling birds for gross, obvious defects like heavy leg feathering on a clean-legged breed or crooked toes, because you already cleaned that up generations ago. Now you are culling ruthlessly for the perfection of the smallest functional detail. You are looking for that exact tail angle for proper balance, the perfect comb texture that won't get frostbitten in the dead of winter, or the millimeter-precise width of the keelbone that will guarantee you a superior dressed carcass. This is where you become a true artisan. Every bird you keep must earn its spot in the breeding pen. Does this hen forage actively, or does she just wait by the feeder? Are the eggs the exact shade of brown or blue you mapped out in your original standard? The F4 is the bridge between a good flock and a legacy bloodline. You are polishing the diamond, and that requires a steady hand and a critical eye. And just when you fervently believe you have everything under absolute, mathematical control, biology will serve you a massive slice of humble pie to remind you who really runs the breeding pen. You'll reach the famous F5 generation, set up your pens with your best specimens, incubate your eggs with blind confidence, and suddenly, out of a hatch of 50 identical chicks, one will pop out with 5 toes, a deviated comb, or a leg color you thought you had eradicated from your farm over 3 years ago. Welcome to the frustrating, unpredictable, and thrilling world of ghost genes, or latent recessives. This happens inevitably because recessive genes can hitch a ride, completely hidden in your bird's DNA code for several consecutive generations. They travel perfectly masked by protective dominant genes, patiently waiting for the exact mathematical combination during fertilization to physically manifest again. This is the definitive psychological breaking point for the technical breeder. This is where the professionals separate themselves from the enthusiastic backyard amateurs. When a gross defect from the past suddenly appears in the middle of your F4 or F5 grow-out phase, the enormous frustration tempts you to throw the whole project overboard, sell the flock, and walk away. Do not do that under any circumstances. Take a deep breath, write the anomaly down in your field notebook, and get ready to make the hard cuts. That defective chick that appeared out of nowhere is not a punishment. It is actually an invaluable gift from poultry nature. It is acting like a radar, showing you exactly which of your breeders are still carrying genetic baggage. You must track back through your exact records to find who the parents of that chick are, and you must pull them from the breeding program immediately, no matter how great their laying rates or carcass weights might be. If you surgically eliminate the silent carriers at this critical stage, you will be cleaning your bloodline on a deep, cellular, and permanent genetic level. Once you get past the massive scare of the latent genes, we enter one of the most aggressive, necessary, and defining phases of technical improvement, the deliberate field stress test. Between the F4 and F6 generations, your birds are practically physical clones. Now you need to separate the aesthetically pretty birds from the truly hardy, immortal ones. It is absolutely useless to have a pen full of cloned hens with brilliant plumage and perfect size if they are going to catch respiratory issues and die at the first sudden drop in nighttime temperature, or the first heavy rainstorm of the winter season that hits your farm. This is where the true master breeder subjects his advanced flock to controlled environmental stress to measure and prove their real genetic hardiness. If you are creating a breed designed for rustic free-ranging and pasture production, you cannot raise them in a climate-controlled bubble. You must expose your future star breeders to the real, harsh, and demanding conditions of your geographical region. Drop the commercial protein percentage in their feeds slightly for a few test weeks. Meticulously observe which birds maintain their weight by actively foraging in the pasture, and which ones rapidly weaken while just waiting for you to fill the easy feeder. Test their deep natural incubation vigor if broodiness is one of the goals of your breed. Let the hens try to incubate their own eggs without the help of an electronic machine. Those that abandon the nest 10 days into their broody spell, or those that are clumsy and crush their chicks at hatch, must be culled without mercy. You must select rigorously for strong maternal instinct, high feed conversion efficiency under suboptimal conditions, and proven natural resistance to local parasites. Physical beauty is a useless and highly expensive ornament to maintain if it is not solidly backed by unbreakable hardiness. If a bird in the advanced F6 generation comes down with infectious coryza or digestive issues while the rest of the flock remains perfectly healthy under the exact same management conditions, that bird does not get medicated to save it for breeding. That weak bird is marked immediately, isolated, cured with antibiotics to be sold off as a cull, and permanently removed from the genetic program. You are one step away from consolidating your breed, and you cannot allow a single immunological weakness to slip into the final genetic database. Only the strongest, most incredibly rustic and highly efficient specimens deserve to go down in your farm's history and make up the coveted breeding stock of the founding 7th generation. And so, by applying relentless selection pressure, measuring every ounce of feed consumed, recording every egg laid, and culling without hesitation when in doubt, you arrive at the majestic pinnacle of this monumental journey, the sacred Generation 7. The unbreakable golden rule of international technical poultry breeding states that it takes an absolute minimum of 7 generations of closed breeding and strict selection toward a fixed standard for a population of birds to earn the legitimate right to be considered a stable breed. Mathematically speaking, by your 7th generation of continuous work, the dominant homozygosity of your flock is so overwhelmingly high that you have successfully isolated, purified, and locked the desired genetic combinations into the DNA. It is in this magical moment of poultry keeping that you reach the supreme and definitive technical concept known worldwide as breeding true. This means they reproduce faithfully and exactly like themselves. When you cross a rooster from your 7th generation with a hen from your 7th generation, the result is no longer a lottery. You have a biological and mathematical predictability of over 99% in every single hatch. You know exactly what plumage color the chicks will have when they dry off, exactly what shape their comb will be at maturity, precisely how many days it will take the pullets to come into lay, the exact color and texture of their eggshells, and the millimeter-perfect weight of the dressed carcass in the males at 16 weeks of grow-out. There are no more nasty surprises, no more undesirable defects. You have completely mastered the biological chaos. You took the natural entropy of the genetic code and, with immense patience, pure applied science, and the rigor of your field notebook, you turned it into absolute order and poultry perfection. But biology is dynamic, it never stops entirely. And here I must give you the final and greatest technical warning to protect your legacy far into the future. You've reached the finish line. You have your stable breed. What will happen in the coming years? What will you do in year 8, year 10, or year 15 of your successful breeding project? The biggest and most tragic mistake established breeders make is getting spooked by the ghosts of long-term inbreeding, committing the absolute madness of introducing a foreign rooster, bought from some distant farm, to supposedly refresh the tired blood of the flock. If you bring in an outside rooster of unknown origin and throw him into your perfect 7th generation pen, you will destroy everything. You have just tossed a genetic bomb right into years of hard work. That foreign rooster, no matter how healthy he looks, will instantly introduce dozens of unknown recessive genes and latent defects that will shatter the uniformity it took you 7 painful years to build drop by drop. You will instantly revert to the absolute, uncontrollable chaos of the F2 generation in a single failed breeding season. New blood is never, ever introduced blindly into a stabilized, closed foundation flock. The high-level professional technique to avoid long-term inbreeding degeneration without ever ruining your breed is called parallel line breeding. From way back in the F3 generation, a truly forward-thinking master breeder never maintains just a single closed family. You must obligatorily split your initial flock into at least 2 or 3 distinct, numbered parallel lines within your own farm. Line A, Line B, and Line C, working in unison but separated by wire fences. You breed them separately for years, maintaining the exact same standard of perfection with the same ruthless technical rigor in all pens, but making absolutely sure they never cross with each other under any circumstances. Through this brilliant planned method, when you reach the advanced F8 or F10 generation and notice through your records that egg size is slightly decreasing, or that incubator fertility is dropping a bit due to the heavy pressure of closed inbreeding, you hold the solution in your own hands. You don't need to go out and buy a rooster from a stranger and risk your farm's biosecurity. You simply take an exceptional, proven rooster from your own Line B and strategically cross him with the elite hens of your Line A. You are crossing very distant genetic cousins. You refresh the blood safely, you instantly recover intraracial hybrid vigor and immunity, but you keep the total genetic purity of your farm completely intact and inviolable, because both birds trace back to the exact same founding ancestors. With this third episode, we officially close our Masterclass mini-series where we have detailed, deeply and without holding back any secrets, all the real, technical and raw steps to create a superior, productive new breed from scratch. We shattered the deceptive F1 illusion, we learned to master biological chaos through ruthless selection in the F2, and now you understand everything from the Progeny Test to the sacred rule of 7 generations to stabilize and protect your bloodline through line breeding. Creating and fixing your own line of birds is the ultimate act of mastery in technical poultry breeding. It is a legacy that will feed future generations of producers long after we are gone. Are you ready to take on the discipline of the 7-generation challenge? Or exactly what stage are you in right now with your own poultry project? Leave me your detailed answer down in the comments so we can keep debating and learning together. Subscribe, leave a valuable like to support the channel, and share this complete Masterclass mini-series with that colleague who is ready to make the professional leap. To your success, my fellow breeder. Until next time.